Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be finishing up a 4-part series. It was only supposed to be 3, but it ended up being 4 on pistol red dots for concealed carry guns, specifically for micro compacts. So if you want to see specific reviews on each dot, I've got the HEX Wasp, I have the Trijicon RMRcc, and I have the Holosun 507k here. This is not going to be a review. I actually did all those. You can go watch them, and if you've watched those already, you're going to know the outcome. What I'm talking about today is which one is the best. And I don't want to claim I'm using science, but I'm trying to be as objective about it as possible, which one you'd want to pick. So if you're getting into the concealed carry, space, and you're getting into red dots, which I highly recommend. I only carry with red dots now. I'm always shooting red dot guns. It's not the future, it's the here and now. If you're getting into it, this is, my, I guess, unbiased opinion, and not really opinion, my unbiased truth on which one is the best. And I'm going to tell you, if you haven't watched the other videos, for me, it was definitely surprising. So let's talk about the contenders. I have the HEX Wasp here, and this is also going to be a stand-in for the Shield RMSc, because I believe, and I don't know this, but I'm pretty sure that the HEX Wasp is a Shield RMSc with a new housing on it, because it's identical. Okay, everything is identical on it. The dot acts the same. It's just a little bit, it's a different housing. So this is going to stand in for all of those, but I'm going to specifically be talking about the HEX Wasp, and then the Holosun and the RMRcc. So we've got categories, and I've assigned a winner in each category, and then there's a points total at the end on what I think is the best dot for just about everybody. And the factoring criteria that I went into that. So maybe there'll be a little graphic on the screen if I get crazy, or if I can get busy, who's really busy, my normal camera guy, to help me out with some graphics, we'll get that. So first off, let's talk about universality. So when you're getting into getting a red dot, getting it to mount on your gun, there's not a lot, there's becoming more, but there's not a lot of guns that come from the factory, especially in this form factor, that are pre-milled for a red dot, so you're gonna have to get it milled, except nowadays it's becoming more and more common, and I think within the next 2 years, every gun is gonna come with at least the option for milling. Which one is gonna be the most universal? So in this category, the HEX wins because it uses the Shield RMSc footprint, which is what the Springfield Hellcat with the optic, or the RDP version is, obviously because it's a Springfield optic. SIG uses it. I've said Bull Armory on their 2011s, they use it. So the Shield RMSc is, up until this point, the most universally used footprint. So the HEX Wasp is going to be the most universally fit dot. Holosun, they were almost there. They used like 95% of the RMSc footprint, but you're still going to have to get a plate because they changed it just enough to make it aggravating. So you're either going to have to get an adapter plate, or you're going to have to get your slide milled. Trijicon just said, screw all y'all, we're doing our own thing, just like they did with the original RMR. And the RMRcc uses its own footprint. So up until now, I don't know of any guns that have RMRcc standards. So you're gonna have to use, adapter plate, or if you have a Glock with the MOS system, get an MOS plate for these. I just don't know how many options there are at this point. So right now, the first point goes to the Springfield HEX. Now, next category, battery life. So in this category, it gets a little wonky because you look at Springfield and they say it's 60,000 hours up to, and that's at the lowest setting. But in real world scenarios, it's going to be 2 hours, which I Googled, which is like 17,500 hours. So 2 years on this in real life, applications. On the website for Trijicon, they say 4 years. They didn't say up to, they said 4 years. So I don't know what brightness setting that's going to be on, but that comes out to like 35,000 hours. And then Holosun, they have 50,000 hours, and they tell you at brightness setting 6, which is fine. So, for me, that's going to put me in the category of this is going to be the winner. So Holosun gets a point for the best battery life, but I typically replace batteries on an annual basis. Now, the next category, and this is going to be very, very important, is durability, okay? And I guess in durability, I'm going to put like how many times the thing messes up. I would say that on shields, specifically on the Shield RMSc and the SIG, you know, it's a very, very small package, and I see them broken a lot. The HEX is going to be more durable than those two. You know, I haven't had any issues with it, but it does not seem to be as durable as either the RMR, which, you know, is king durability in the full size. The CC, I've got no reason to believe it won't be as durable. And this Holosun has been very, very durable as well. I haven't had any issues with either of them. So really, for me, it's a tie between Holosun and the RMRcc. So both of them get a point. I did have some issues with the HEX specifically, where it wouldn't, the dot would flicker off after shooting. So I had a replacement dot sent out, and I haven't had any issues since. But I did have some issues with the HEX. So this does not get a point. I would say durability, it's going to be Holosun and Trijicon tied. Now, the next is the dot itself. This is a 3 MOA dot in the HEX. This is going to be a 2.5 MOA dot, and or 2 MOA dot with a 32 MOA ring in the Holosun, and the RMRcc is a 3.25 MOA or 6 MOA. This is the 3.25. So they're all relatively the same size. Crispness factor, I'm going to say crispest is going to be a tie between the Holosun and the Trijicon. I can't tell a difference from the dot itself. The dot in shields, SIGs, and the HEX, the refresh rate is so low that when you move it back and forth, you see a lot of flickering. So this flickers and it's not as clear, so this is the loser. And it comes down to these two, and I'm actually going to give a point to Holosun because they have multiple reticle options as opposed to just a dot. So they're both just as crisp, but the fact that you can get this and it'll have the option for the dot with the ring only, or the dot only, makes this a winner. And I actually keep it on all the time with that extra ring and the dot. Now, is that probably going to affect the battery life and make the battery life potentially lower than the RMRcc? It could be, but like I said, I change batteries pretty often, so that's not an issue. So Holosun wins and gets the point in the dot. Now lens, they're all close, and it's a small lens, so when you're looking through it, it's not like, you know, field of view is really going to be the problem, but it's going to be lens size. So in all of these, I can tell you right now without measuring it, which I guess I should for, you know, if this is going to be scientific, but as I bring them all up between let's rank them smallest to biggest. So HEX / shield, it's almost the same size. The HEX is the smallest, and then we have the RMRcc is actually, I believe it's a little smaller, but for some reason it actually appears bigger to me. So this is going to be kind of the same size as the shield. The Holosun window, it just feels, when you have the other two, this window feels gigantic. So window size and then window clarity. Like the HEX, when you get beyond, you know, 15 to 25 yards, the window isn't clear, and the curvature actually starts to compress the image. So you're going to get the image that you're looking through is going to curve and droop down. And while you're not looking through the window, you're actually superimposing the dot over your target if you're using your dominant eye. It's enough that it gets distracting for me. So this window is acceptable for engagements, you know, I'm using tactical terms, I'm just a LARPer, but for shooting under 25 yards for sure, this kind of shines like and is good at like 10 to 15 yards. The RMRcc, once you bring it up, you're going to have a lot of distortion towards the top of the image, which is fine because you should have that dot right on there, but it does tend to distort quite a bit when you bring it up. And the notch filter, is bluer. There's more of a notch filter, probably to get better battery life, because that's why you have that blue tint. It's got to be there on here, whereas the Holosun is the clearest, and it does not have as much distortion. When you get towards the edge, it's definitely going to distort some, but it's not going to have as much. So the Holosun lens wins, and I can see that you're probably understanding where this is going to go, and yes, that's just where it's going to end up. Battery replacement, both the Trijicon, the Shield, you know, the HEX Wasp that we have here, they all have to be removed to replace the battery, put new Loctite on them, retorque them, confirm zero. That's all kind of a pain in the butt. So it's not a huge deal, but the fact that Holosun said, hey, you know, we're going to go ahead and put a battery tray on the side for you, there you go. That's a win right there. Backup irons. So that's going to be the other one that I just talked about, the battery replacement. That's another point for Holosun. Now, backup irons. So if the dot goes down, do you have a way to have backups? Depending on where the dot is mounted, you can use, you know, the stock backups or put some tall sights on it. The Trijicon, especially on a lot of these compact guns, is going to sit a little bit higher, so I cannot use the backup sight or the stock sights as backups should the dot go down. Whereas the Holosun and the Shield slash, you know, HEX Wasp both have rear sight notches built into them. So if you can't use the stock backups or the stock iron sights as backups, they have something built in. However, the Trijicon does have that normal RMRU shape on top of the housing, which you can use as a rudimentary backup. So I'm actually going to give them all a point. So we've got the HEX Wasp, Holosun, and Trijicon all getting a point on that one. And now finally, let's talk about, actually, before we get to the price, one other thing is going to be adjustments. So the tactile adjustments or the windage and elevation adjustments. On HEX, you have to put a special tool, which is like a little sundial, to figure out your adjustments. It takes a lot longer, and they're not as, there's no tactile clicks, so it's very vague when you're zeroing your dot. I haven't had any problems with it losing zero, but I wouldn't say I've got so many rounds through it that I'd feel like supremely confident in it. But I'm not confident, if I'm going to put it that way. But it is very vague. When you come down to the Trijicon and the Holosun, so the RMRcc and the 507k, they both have tactile clicks. The RMRcc is a 3 MOA adjustment, which is kind of large if you use to like 1 MOA or quarter MOA, whereas the Holosun is a 1 MOA adjustment per click. So in the clickiness, I guess you could get a little more precise with the Holosun, but I'm not going to fault the RMR because, I mean, you're at 25 yards, guys. This is not, you know, a sniper rifle. So I would say on them, they're both the same on that. However, the Trijicon doesn't need a tool. You can just use a standard screwdriver. You can use a coin. Whereas the Holosun, you need to have their special tool that's in the little box to adjust it. So if you do need to zero it, this is a little bit more of a pain in the butt, or use a very, very small, you know, flathead screwdriver. So this one has more adjustment, whereas this one's better to adjust. So I would give a point both to the Holosun and the Trijicon. Now, getting down to it is price. The HEX is listed for $299. The Shield RMSc is, I think they have them listed for like $400. You're going to find them for less than that. I actually haven't seen the HEX Wasp available yet, so I don't know if it's going to be less than $299, but Shields are typically substantially under $300, whereas the Holosun is listed at $341.16, I believe. Typically finding them in the high 200 range. So price-wise, the Holosun is beating out the HEX and the Shield just about on a lot of occasions. And then the Trijicon is listed at $700, $699. For a while there, you're paying, you know, definitely near that amount. However, with them becoming more and more available, I'm seeing them in the fives, and we'll probably see them settle right around 500 bucks. So this is going to be more expensive than the other two, but when it comes down to it, you're going to have to get this one mounted, and you're going to have to get the Holosun, you know, optic cuts done. So when it comes down to the pricing, there's definitely going to be some extras in there, but the Holosun wins on pricing. So if you have been keeping track, and there's a little score down below, Holosun from China, okay, that's a drawback. I should have put it in there, but you know, who's to say that the red little dot thing inside of the Trijicon isn't from China, even though it says made in the USA. But the Holosun is the winner for me, and it's a no-brainer. So outside of mounting issues that I've had to get the Holosun onto, you know, an RMSc footprint using a plate and screws, there's all kinds of issues there. I'm going to get that fixed, and the Holosun is definitely the carry dot for me. So if you're looking for a dot and you're looking for it on your concealed carry gun, the only reason that you wouldn't get the Holosun, well, there's two reasons, I suppose. One reason that you wouldn't get the Holosun is because you want something that mounts to your gun already, and it's got the RMSc footprint. So you're going to have to either get a plate or get an adapter for it. The other reason that you wouldn't get a Holosun is really just, I guess, at this point, pride. You know, you don't want to have a Chinese dot, you know, like Goodyear's on a Ferrari, and you know, you instead of the RMRcc. I have despised Holosun pistol dots. I got screwed the first couple of times I got them. They went down. Had no luck with them. So this is my first foray back into Holosuns, and this is the winner for me. So concealed carry guns, Holosun 507k. You might have a different opinion, but this is where I'm going to recommend people go.